So with Christmas just a few weeks away, I really wanted to do a Christmas inspired cake for this week's video tutorial. And what is more Christmassy than a Christmas tree? So for this week's video, I'm going to show you how to make this Christmas tree cake. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to make the Christmas tree cake, the first thing that I'm going to do is carve the cake into the correct shape. I've got my 6-inch vanilla cakes here. I've baked 3 different tiers and these give me a height of around 5 inches. So I've just had these cakes in the fridge overnight just so they're a little bit easier to carve, but when they come back to room temperature they will go nice and soft and fluffy like normal. So all I'm going to do is start by placing my cake on a 6-inch drum board. I'm then going to take my cookie cutter. Now this one is just a circle and it's just over 2.5 inches in diameter, and I'm going to place that in the center of my cakes and just push that down so that I get an imprint. I'm then going to use a serrated knife and just cut from the edge of this circle down to the edge here. So we're going to start to get that Christmas tree shape. So as you can see, we've got the start of this cone shape. So it's wider at the bottom and just tapering up. So the next thing to do is I'm just going to take some Rice Krispie treats and just mold those into the point that's going to go on the top. And once you're happy with how that is looking, I'm just going to bring my cake back in and just test it on the top. So now I've got the top of the Christmas tree on there. I'm just going to use this as a guide and make sure that I've tapered those edges enough. So I'm going to go ahead and separate all the layers, filling them with chocolate ganache and then coating the whole of the outside. Now one tip that I've got, and you may have seen this in some of my other videos, is just before I take the cake apart, I'm just going to take some cocktail sticks and just place those into each tier of the cake so that they're one above the other. Now the reason for this is when we come to restack the cake, you just want to make sure that all the cocktail sticks are then in a line so that you know you've put them back in the right place. Okay, so I've made a batch of milk chocolate ganache and I'll put a link in the description below to a video where I show you exactly how I made this. Now the reason I'm using ganache is just because it firms up a little bit stiffer. It will just help retain the structure. Now I'm putting it onto a 6-inch drum board just because when we put it on the final cake board, they're going to raise it up slightly so that we can add in the branches. Now when I add the next layer, I'm just making sure that those cocktail sticks are in line, and once it has all been lined up, then just take those out. Now if you wanted to add more support, or if you're making your cake slightly larger, you might want to put a wooden dowel straight through the center, but as I'm only using a 6-inch cake and the top of the cake has the Rice Krispie treats, so I'm not adding a lot of weight, and this cake will be fine. I'm just going in with my long offset spatula just to smooth out those sides and make sure that we're getting that nice cone shape. Now just to finish smoothing that out, I've just got my flexi smoothers, so I'm just going to go in and just drag these over that ganache. Now once you're happy with the shape that you've got, I'm just going to pop this into the fridge just for around 10 minutes just to harden up slightly so I can just put another thin layer of ganache over the top. Okay, so whilst the cake is in the fridge, I'm just going to prepare the board the cake is going to sit on. So all I've got here is a 10-inch drum board. I've then got a 5-inch drum board, and this one again is just a centimeter in height. Now I'm going to place this onto the board and glue this in the center. This will then allow the 6-inch drum board that the cake is sitting on at the moment just to rest on top of this one, which will give the cake a centimeter clearance. So all I've done is just put some double-sided tape onto the bottom of this 5-inch drum board and a small amount of glue on there as well. Now nothing that is going to be touching these two boards is going to be edible, so it doesn't matter what glue we use. And I can then go ahead and cover these boards so they're ready to take the cake. Now I just want these boards to look like they're covered in snow, so I'm just going to add some white icing to these. I'm just going to brush on some water just so that icing will stick. Now I just want to cover this area of the board, not the top of this smaller disc, just because I want the Christmas tree to sit flush. I'm just going to take the largest of my cookie cutters, just cut out a circle in the middle and just lay this over the top. I'm just going to push that icing against the edge of the drum board just so that we won't see any of that silver on the edges of the board. I'm then just going to lift our icing in places and just create little mounds. And once you're happy with how that board is looking, I'm just going to trim off the excess. Okay, so you can either leave the board as it is. I want mine to look a little bit more like snow. So I've got here just some white sugar sprinkles, or if you don't have these, you can just use granulated sugar. I've just mixed some water with some icing sugar, and I'm just going to run this all over my board. Once that has all been covered, I'm just going to bring in a tray just to catch any excess sugar. I'm just going to tip that all over. So what we're left with is this snow texture. So I'm just going to finish the board off just by wrapping a white satin ribbon around the edge. Okay, so I've just taken our Christmas tree out of the fridge. So I'm just going to give it one more coating of chocolate ganache before we start covering. I'm just going to paint on some of that water mixed icing sugar onto the outside. Now you can use piping gel or add just some water, and all this is going to do is make the icing stick. Now I'm just going to cover the cake in some green icing. So I've got some Emerald Renshaw here, and I'm just going to roll this out just to give us a base of green on our cake. And I'm just adding this just so that if there are any gaps in between our branches, you will see the green rather than the chocolate ganache. Now instead of trying to cover the cake from the top, I'm actually going to just place this on the side and just wrap it around. I'm then going to trim off excess and just join those two pieces together, and I'm just going to trim off any excess at the bottom. Now all I'm going to do is just transfer this onto the drum board that we've already prepared. Okay, so I've just got my cake board here which has the white snow around the edge, and I've just put some more of that double-sided tape on the board just to stick the two together. So we've got the drum board which is sitting underneath this cake. So I'm just going to lift my cake, just pop that into place. Now, as you can see, we've got our cake sitting on the board and it's sitting 1 centimetre from the bottom. So the next thing to do is to create all the branches for the cake. Now, you may have seen these if you've seen my peony video, but I'm actually going to use my peony cutters for this. Now, the peony cutters I've got here are in 3 different sizes. So a larger one, which I'm going to use for the branches at the bottom of the tree. Then going up, I'm going to go into the medium size and then use the smaller one for the top. I've also got some green modelling paste. Now the reason that I'm using modelling paste over fondant is just because it dries a little bit harder, so the branches are going to keep their shape. I've then got my rolling pin, my ball tool and just some modelling tools, my craft knife, some kitchen paper and my foam mat. So I'm going to start by rolling out my modelling paste until it's around 1 to 2 millimeters in thickness. I'm then just going to cut out peony shapes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just use my craft knife, and where you've got this ruffled shape along the edge, I'm just going to cut into that. I'm then going to pick this up and pop it onto my foam mat. Using my ball tool, I'm just going to go in and thin out that paste and just blend back. I'm then going to take my modelling tool with the point on the end and just working along the front of my branches. I'm just going to put small little indent into the front, so just small lines. I'm just going to do some lines down the side. Now from where I cut into the shape, I'm just going to create some lines running down and also just put some longer lines running from those ends. I'm then just going to come up about halfway and just put some little lines in there, and all this is going to do is when the one above it just sits slightly on top, it's just going to look like you've got some other branches coming down. So you have something like this. I'm then going to just pop that down, and using some of my tissue paper, all I want to do is just keep the top of the branch flat, because this is what we're going to use to connect it to the tree. And I'm just going to use some of that tissue paper just to pull the branch up, pull the ends round, and just really give that some shape. All I'm trying to make sure is that the bottom will just come away from the tree slightly. So I'm just going to pop this branch to one side just to dry while we work on the others. So I'm going going to take the middle size and the smaller size and do exactly the same. So I'm just going to cut into that shape in different places. I'm then going to just use my ball tool just to thin out that shape. And then going to go in with the pointed tool and just put those lines around the edge. Shape that around and leave that one to dry. And do exactly the same with the smaller ones. So we've got the 3 different sizes of branches that we want to create. Now there is quite a lot of surface area on our Christmas tree that we need to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and make quite a few of the larger one, the middle size and the smaller one, and just leave those all to dry until they've hardened slightly so they're ready to go onto our Christmas tree. Okay, so I have made quite a few of the branches in the 3 different sizes. Now I won't lie, this is quite a time-consuming process, but I think they look fantastic. So now to finish these off, I'm just going to dust these with some different shades of green petal dust just to bring them to life. I just have some apple green and some foliage green petal dust, and I'm just going to take some of my branches and just dust into places. So I've made 30 of the bigger ones, 30 of the middle sized ones, 30 of the smaller ones. Okay, so I've got my Christmas tree and I've got my branches that have all been coloured. I'm just going to start applying them onto the Christmas tree. Now to do this, I've just got some royal icing and I'm just going to pop at the top, so where that flat section at the top was, and just place these on the Christmas tree. So I'm just going to come up from the bottom slightly and push that into place. Now this is going to be a little bit like putting a puzzle together. So all I want to do is just pop that royal icing on the back of another one, and then just pop this next to the first one, just overlapping slightly at the bottom. I'm then going to work my way all around the bottom of the Christmas tree. Okay, so there we have the first row of branches. I'm going to do the next layer. All I'm going to do is take the larger size still, and I just want to cover top of those ones underneath. So where we've got this flat area, I'm just going to put these in between just to cover that over. I'm then just going to work my way around as I did with the previous layer. Okay, so there we have the first 3 layers complete. So all I'm going to do is start working with the medium size branches and just complete 3 rows with those. Okay, so now I've got all the large and the medium ones on. I'm just going to finish off this top section with the smaller of the 3. And for that last row, I'm just going to bring them all up into a point just to meet at the top of that Christmas tree. Okay, so here we have the Christmas tree completely covered and it's starting to look a little bit more like a tree. So the next thing for me to do is to create some decorations to add. Okay, so the first decoration I'm going to make for the Christmas tree is some tinsel. So I've just got some white icing and some light blue icing. So I thought I would make it slightly mottled just so it looks like it's shimmering in the light, so you've got different colours. So I'm just going to mix those together, but so it is not completely combined. I'm then going to take my extruder gun with the largest circle end. I'm then just going to push that out. Okay, so to make it look a little bit more like tinsel, all I'm going to do, I've just got a very small pair of scissors and I'm just going to chop into that icing. I'm then just going to take my modelling tool with the point at the end and just push that into the icing, just doing small little circles just to mess it up slightly. And I'm going to do that down the complete length of the icing. So I'm just trying to give the impression of movement on there. Okay, so once I've got a strand of tinsel, all I'm gonna do is bring back in my cake, and I just wanna drape that it looks like we're wrapping our tinsel around. And I'm just gonna fix that into place with some edible glue. So as you can see, we've got that first piece of tinsel on. So I just wanna create some more and just wrap it all the way around the tree. So we've got the first row of tinsel going all the way around the tree. So I'm now gonna do a second row. So all I've done so far is just 2 complete rows around the Christmas tree. So I'm going to do another 2 a little bit further up. So there we have the tinsel all around the tree. So the next thing to do is just add some baubles. Okay, so to make the baubles on the Christmas tree, I've just got some pink icing here. Now you can use any colour, and I'm going to make an assortment of different colours, and also some light grey icing. So first of all, I'm just going to take some small amounts of that pink icing and just roll out my baubles so they're about 1 centimetre in diameter. I'm then just going to take some shimmery pink edible luster dust and just paint over those just so that they are shiny. I'm just going to take my light grey icing and I'm just going to roll that out until it's around 2 to 3 millimetres in thickness. I've then got a number 3 piping tip. So this one just has a round circle at the end, and I'm just going to cut out some little grey tubes. I'm then just going to use some edible glue just to pop on the end of those and pick them up. Place that on top of the baubles that we've made and just push that down slightly. So we've got these really cute little Christmas baubles. So here we have the little mini Christmas baubles to go on the Christmas tree. So I'm going to go ahead and make these in a variety of different colours. Okay, so I've got all my Christmas baubles ready to add onto my Christmas tree. So all I want to do is take my Christmas baubles and just using some edible glue, just attach these to some of the branches so that they look like they're dangling from the ones above. Okay, so now all the baubles have been added to the tree. The last thing to do is make a star to go on the top just to finish it off. So I've just got some white modelling or gum paste here, and I'm just going to roll this out, and I'm just using a star cutter and I'm just going to cut a star shape out of that. Now this star is about 1 inch across. I'm then just going to take a cocktail stick and just where you've got the bottom of the star, I'm just going to push that cocktail stick into there just so that we can attach it to our tree. I've just got some royal gold edible luster dust here, and I'm just going to mix that with some rejuvenating spirit just to turn it into a paint. I'm then just going to paint this gold all over my star, so on the back and the front. I'm then just going to leave the star to dry just until it's ready to add onto our Christmas tree. Okay, so I've got my gold star all ready to go onto the top of my cake. So I'm just going to break off a small amount of that cocktail stick just so I don't have to push it in as far, and I'm just going to pop that into the top and push that down. So there we have our finished Christmas tree with our star on top and our coloured baubles. I really hope you've enjoyed the video and will find it useful if you wanted to make your own Christmas inspired Christmas tree cake. If you have, then don't forget to give this video a like, and if you'd like to see more Christmas themed tutorials, then head over to my channel. Plus, if you haven't already, then don't forget to subscribe for more cake decorating videos to come. Bye!